Welcome here to a very special broadcast spotlighting Maine-Endwell and the Spartans and their football team. I'm very honored and privileged as always to be here with the head football coach, Matt Gallagher. He knows what success is and sustained success, even more importantly, and they are in the state semis for New York State. They're going to be playing close to home in the Southern Tier area at Union Endicott this weekend, and they'll have an opportunity if they get past this round and to go to back to the Dome and have an opportunity for the New York State Championship. So it all goes through Batavia, and I'm happy to be here in this special with Maine-Endwell to put a spotlight on the Southern Tier and specifically the Spartans, as we've done for the last couple of years with Matt. So with that being said, from inside the Cafe Kubal studios, Matt, how are you?
I'm awesome, Dan. I appreciate you having me on.
Always. And always appreciate it. Always love having you on here and on the broadcast. And, I'd love to go into this last game, the regional that got you to where you are here today when we know that coming up here very soon, you're going to have an opportunity at the state semis. So in the regional game, you went up against Homer and won that game 53-8. A convincing victory is an understatement, but just what you took away from the Homer game and what you can learn from that game.
Well, things didn't start out great. First quarter, it's tied 8-8. We turned the ball over a couple of times. They had a scoop and score, but our guys and we talk about that a little bit as far as lots of things can happen in the first quarter and even in the first half. We just have to kind of figure out what they're doing. Kind of adjust to the speed of the game, whether it's faster or slower, obviously. And we always talk about that emotion plays a big part, especially in the first quarter. And then you have to, no matter how, emotional you are and how high you are as far as being pumped up, eventually you're going to have to play football. And that's the way we look at it. So we know if something doesn't go our way in the first quarter or even the first half, that we just have to kind of settle down, try to do what we do, and hopefully things will work out from there.
And like you said, it didn't start out the way that you wanted it to. When people see that end score of 53-8, what changed for you? What did you adjust? What happened? Did you just need the guys to kind of get control of their emotions? What was it about the game that you felt like really worked to? Was it settling the team down? Was it settling the emotions? Was it halftime adjustments? Was it just getting on the sideline and saying, "Hey, we know our plan. Let's not get flustered"? What was the ingredients to success, essentially, to start that game like you did and be able to finish it by shutting them out from there and being able to score offensively?
Well, it was just like one of those things that we just didn't have the ball. We just needed the ball, and then we felt that we could, get up the field pretty quickly. We felt that we were a little bit faster than them. They're obviously a big, powerful team that have had huge success. Coach P has done a great job for a lot of years up there, and they have a great tradition up there at Homer. And this is the third time that we've played them in that round. So we know what we get from them. It's a good, solid, well-coached, and classy team, and those are the games that you look forward to going into. They're gonna come, they're gonna bring it, they're gonna hit hard, they're gonna tackle the right way. There's not gonna be any chirping or trash talking. It's and that's a tribute to their coaches and to their players, and that's the way we like it. We just want to go out, play some football, and and then the better team wins that day. And I think that we might have just had a couple of advantages in certain spots, and that allowed us to be able to be successful on Saturday. But sometimes people say what adjustments did you make and things like that. But whether there's a good team playing against us, so they could have caused those turnovers, and that just happens, right? So we just try to talk about just going back to doing things that we do, and hopefully that ends up being a pretty good recipe for us, and then that's exactly what we're going to do this coming Saturday as well.
We look at the team as a whole historically, dating back to 2010. In the last 12 years, this is the 8th time that you're in the state playoffs from 2010 to now. Just what you can say about that, and the fact that not only have you been won sectionals, gotten into the state playoffs more than half the time in the last 12 years. But on top of that, you put yourself in a place to become a state champion as well. Just the pedigree of Maine-Endwell. You and I have spoken about this before, the difference between success and sustained success.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's at Maine-Endwell, and I know this question comes up a lot, and we've talked about it right here on your show, and
Yeah.
it is Maine-Endwell. It's everywhere. It's not Maine-Endwell football. It's just Maine-Endwell in general, and the support that we get from everybody, and the success that everybody at Maine-Endwell has through the sports programs as well as through the educational programs and the music programs and anything that goes along with it. We are just lucky and fortunate. So, and that's what the bar is set high. The expectations are there, and the kids that we have, they want to meet those, and they'll do anything to get there, as far as working in the off season or doing a little extra studying here or doing some studying there. But they put their nose to the grind, and they get out there and they get the work done. So we're pretty fortunate here at Maine-Endwell. We know that we don't take anything for granted. We don't look past anybody. Batavia is going to be tough, and they're our next game, and but at the same time, we know that we're a team that can get up there, and if we do what we do, we can take care of business on Saturday and hopefully end up in the Dome the following week.
Looking at Section 4 and the class that you're in, Class B, how would you describe Class B and what your competition, league and non-league, does as a Section 4 Class B team to get you prepared for a moment like this?
Well, that's a good question, and I think that our class, is tough. Week in and week out, we have to battle, and not only that, but we usually play some of the A schools, and then of course we usually end up playing Forks, who's you guys know Forks is Forks, and so
Yes.
our non-divisional games are not easy. We play UE this year, and obviously they're sitting in the same situation we are now, and I wish them obviously a great deal of luck, as well as Tioga, and it's Section 4 too, so there's a lot of success. Class B specifically, when it comes to most of the teams, were pretty even this year. We may have had an upper hand on some of them just because of our size and our speed, but if you look at all the other people in our class, they battled. They battled us every week, and then they battled each other every week, and that obviously prepares us for where we're at now, moving into the state playoffs. Then we were able to play a team like Cornwall out of Section 9, who's traditionally a great program, and a couple of state titles under their belt. And like I mentioned, we get to play UE, who's sitting in the state semis right now as well. So each week we know that we have to come and play.
And when you're scheduling these games, speaking here with Matt Gallagher, the head coach of the Maine-Endwell Spartans high school football program, heading on to the state semis here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, spotlighting Maine-Endwell inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. A team like Cornwall Central, when you're scheduling these games and you get a Section 9 team that's had the success that they've had, how important is it for you to do that? And this was a game that was scheduled, and not early. It was scheduled, right there in the midst of your season, middle of your season, on October 15th. So to put that game in to play Section 9, we see that, good teams will challenge themselves. Great teams will say, hey, we might play a game like this, like the Cornwall game, where we could take a loss, but it's going to teach us something. How important was it for you to get Section 9 in there and really test your team in the heart of your season?
Well, we don't traditionally, we don't really have a say in the schedule. The section does it. But they pretty much know that we'll go anywhere and play anybody, and that's how it's been over the years, that we, whether it's one or two classes up or our own in other sections. But I think it does help us seeing different people from different areas. And then at the same time, especially if they're a team like Cornwall that comes in and with the success that they've had, it definitely, it motivates the kids a little bit, right? Especially back there in the middle of the season. But at the same time, it just kind of lets you know where you're at too. And I think that did help us being able to play a team like that. and then having the success that we had against them too, which obviously uh, kept us going in the right direction.
Yeah, and getting to see that, right? Getting to see what your team has done and the competition that they've had. What was it about the beginning of the season that you thought maybe wasn't there? And now you're looking at this and seeing these league and non-league games and playoff games and whatnot, where you really feel like, all right, you know what? We tried to teach that in preseason. We tried to teach that in week 1, week 2, week 5, but now we're seeing it come through. What are some of those elements that you really see starting to come to fruition, maybe at the most opportune time at this point?
Well, in all honesty, we really have narrowed down our stuff. So whatever we put in at the beginning of the year, that's what we're still running. And but now it's just getting a little bit more crisp. The kids are really starting to see different things and know what we do. And the fact that we've been able to see different defenses over the weeks. Now, any defense that we do see, we have seen it before. So the kids know how to adjust to that. It's kind of built into our system. So the kids have adjusted, they can adjust to that right at the line of scrimmage, and they see that, and then they just go ahead and take care of business. So that has really, kind of tightened up and kind of has really looked like pretty clean when it comes to the execution of the things that we do. And there's no better time to do it than in the state playoffs, I guess.
And you mentioned the section, right? Section 4 and the level of talent and that you have in different classes. You're in class B, and then we're looking at, you mentioned them, Tioga is in class D, and then we have class A with Union Endicott all playing for the opportunity in the state semis to go to the championship games and have an opportunity to go after a state title. Just what section 4 has been and what it's meant. I mean, there's a lot of talented teams. You named some of them too, as we were talking here today, that didn't make it this far this year, that sometimes do. I mean, section 4 was well represented last year, well represented this year. To have multiple teams in different classes vying for the opportunity at a championship game, just what you could say about section 4 and what people should know about the level of competition, whatever the class may be.
Well, I think Section 4 football is really good, and I think people are starting to realize that. Um, you know, and it's kind of proven when we get to the state tournament and how well we how successful we have been as a entire section. So the fact that I think the whole coaching kind of fraternity at Section 4, we're close. I think that helps. We want to battle each other, we want to beat each other, but then when there's a clinic or something like that, we're friends. You know what I mean? And we'll help each other out in any way we can. And we'll have we have a Section 4 combine, we have a Section 4 flag tournament, we have a Section 4 lineman challenge. All these things are built in there for the section, by the coaches, and I think that has kind of really taken the whole section to a different level. So week in and week out, you have to play, you have to get better. So knowing that each week, there's only one thing that you can do, and that's work hard to prepare. So I think that just gets everybody better at the same time.
And do you feel like playing these games during the regular season that puts you up against different classes within section 4, that level of competition and playing those different class games, whether you're playing class A or class C or whatever it may be, do you feel like that's putting you in a place that's making you better prepared for runs like this so late in the season?
I do in some cases I do, but not always. Depending on who it is, when it is, because at the end of the day, that those guys are usually, there's a lot more of those bigger guys because they have a lot more to choose from. So, and that's just reality. So, and even if you do, you're lucky enough to get a win, it still could really kind of take a toll on your guys and the pounding and things like that. Fortunately, that didn't happen to us this year. But there's been times that we've played, larger schools and even the schools our size as well. That you just kind of you're gimping a little bit here and there, and it kind of sometimes that lingers throughout the season. But Ultimately, I think playing better competition is going to get you ready for these bigger games. So, um, and what really, to be honest with you, I know this is a little bit off the topic, but I think the the separation is really shown more on the JVs.
Okay.
When a smaller school plays a larger school, a better smaller school, like a better as maybe the top of the divisions, they might be able to battle and play with some of the larger A's and double A's if we're just using B as an example. But when it comes to the JVs, that's when the separation is, because that's when they haven't that are the guys in the B's maybe haven't had the time to get bigger and stronger yet necessarily, and there's a lot less of them because there's a lot less of them to choose from. But but that's not for every school, because we're fortunate enough to have great numbers at all our levels.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate in that way, but that's not the same for most of the smaller schools. So the JVs is what really takes a hit, which you don't want because you want them coming back.
Right. That coming here from Matt Gallagher here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our Spotlight special featuring the Maine-Endwell Spartans football program as they are in the state semis. You had to come up to Central New York and play at CNS in the regionals, and now in the state semis, you get to be close to home. Union Endicott is right down the road here, Southern Tier, so not too far away. Your fans, I mean, obviously they travel well, but they'll have an opportunity to not have too far to go. Just what it means to you in a state semifinal game that you get to not necessarily be at home, but close enough to home that you can have that experience the way that is.
It worked out great. It's awesome. The fact that hopefully we'll have, if we take care of business, we'll have 2 games up at Syracuse, kind of is the sandwich, and then having a local one in the middle there. So, and the fact, like you mentioned, giving all our community a chance just to kind of scoot over to UE. And it's supposed to be beautiful. The weather's getting nicer as the week progresses. So, hopefully we'll get a nice crowd like we always do. We get so much support from everybody. So, we're pumped up about that. So hopefully Saturday is going to be the same way. Hopefully it's going to be a good crowd for everybody. We're the middle game, so we might get some leftovers from the first game, and then maybe some people that want to come a little bit early for the last game. So, and then of course our fans as well. So, with all that being said, I think it's going to be it's going to be a great atmosphere.
Yeah, and you have that opportunity right after Thanksgiving on Saturday, November 26th at 3 p.m. at Union Endicott High School. As you look at Batavia, that we've talked about a little bit here, they're undefeated, you're undefeated. So whoever comes out of this game with a loss, it's going to be their first loss of the season, dating back to the beginning of September. What are you seeing from them? I mean, looking back at their schedule, they're a team that can score in the 40 plus. They've done that numerous times this season. I think in their 12-0 record up to this point, they've scored 40 or more in 6 of those 12 games. So half of their games. Just what you're seeing from them offensively as well as defensively, because, against Monroe, they had to gut that out 14-8. And recently against Iroquois, 20-8. So they have been a team that can score in the 40s, but they're also a team that's been able to find ways to gut it out when those games are held to 20 or less.
Well, we're just going to, we understand that, they're very athletic. They run to, they run around, they run to the ball. Offensively, they're tough to tackle. So we're going to have to make sure that we're, making sure that they don't get outside, and we're tackling low, and we're gang tackling, and a lot more guys than one guy is hitting them. So that might maybe not necessarily want them to carry the ball too often that day. But and then offensively, we're pretty confident in our offense that it's going to have to be a pretty darn good defense to stop us, based on the fact that we have so many weapons that we have 6 or 7 guys that I feel comfortable handing the ball off to, and then making something happen. So when you have that, plus you have the threat of pass game, I think that we're pretty tough to stop. And once again, if we're looking at and nothing against the other sections, but I know how our section is, and I know how good we are. So we're doing the things that we do against competition every week. I haven't seen the other sections, but I know what we've seen. So that's why we feel pretty confident that, each week we see teams that, that we know that are going to get us better, and that's going to prepare us for a team like Batavia.
And you talked about the fact of you trusting in your offense too. I said 6 of their 12 games they've scored at least 40. Well, 6 of your 11 games you've scored at least 40. So more than half of your games you've been able to get into the 40 plus. So you have that on your side as well. You mentioned the fact of having a backfield with 6 guys at least that you feel comfortable handing the ball off to. How do you orchestrate and work that out? I mean, obviously, fresh legs is a great thing. We've seen at the collegiate level this season against Syracuse. If you just look at Syracuse's games, you see Notre Dame had 3 guys, so everybody was fresh. Florida State had 3 to 5 guys, so everybody was fresh. You look at those situations collegiately and say, wow, look at how effective that can be. When you have 6 guys at least in a stable in your backfield, and you could say, okay, we're going to get a look with this guy. If this guy's not feeling it today, we got 5 other guys. We're going to use him. Okay, we're going to lean on him in the second half. Okay, we're going to go with him on third down. To have so many of them, how do you orchestrate that? And then secondly, how do they work together and not get individualistic?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because number one, we don't keep stats. We don't keep stats. They've never asked for stats. They never ask how many yards I have, how many, this, that, the other thing. It just doesn't happen. And that's because that's the type of kids they are.
Yeah.
And it's easy when you don't have to worry about that. It's easy just to say, okay, it's a formation. They know what the formation is, and then we can run certain plays. Now, obviously, certain guys are better off doing certain things, and we know that, and that's, those are the things that we try to do, just to kind of, just like anything, right? You want to set them up for success. So we want to try to do that the best we can. But in all honesty, there's times that, and sometimes I'll tell them to rotate when they feel like they need to. So there's times that I'll call a play, and the person that, ends up getting the ball is not necessarily the person that I thought was going to be in there. And like I said, I'm fine with that. We have 2 fullbacks that rotate, and if we put our third in there, that wouldn't even bother me, because they're good. And we legitimately have 3 or 4 other, what we call our A backs, that can get the ball at any time, and then our quarterback, whoever it is, our first or second quarterback, can get in there, and they can definitely get the job done and have all year. So, and then on top of that, it's our line that kind of understands the whole picture. And, I think our coaching staff has just done an amazing job on both sides of the ball. And I think that we have really taken advantage of our special teams this year, more so than ever, as far as getting the upper hand on the special teams. So if we know that we can be better offensively and better defensively, and really, really get the upper hand in special teams, that's a tough combination to beat.
How does the offensive line adjust? Because, I'll talk to some linemen and they say, hey, blocking's blocking. We don't care who's behind us. We're just going to block, do what we got to do. But when you have different skill sets of different people doing different things and different quarterbacks, I mean, yeah, your offense might be what it is, but do you see that there's little nuances and little adjustments? Do you see that your offensive linemen are able to be chameleons? Because, it depends on who you talk to, but sometimes when I'm talking to the offensive line, they're like, I don't care who's behind me. I just do what I got to do. But I would imagine with different skill sets and different types of backs and your quarterbacks making decisions that, even if they were similar, are going to do different things different ways depending on where they're at. So, nobody's exactly the same. So how do you see your offensive line act in a chameleon type fashion?
Well, it's the back's job to cut off of what they're doing, to make the cuts based on what the offensive line's doing. Yeah. So that part of it is that, that's all on the backs. But the offensive line, we check out of things. If I call a play and it's not there as we call it, because they happen to be in a defense that it's not there for, we check out of it. And ultimately it's the quarterback's decision. But the lineman will be, because the lineman will get to the line first, so the lineman will already be calling will be checking out of it because they understand the whole system. They understand, what can be run in certain spots. So they'll already be calling it out before the quarterback even does, which is a beautiful thing. So, and that's what I think is what's making us click. Everybody kind of understands it. They know the reason why we're doing it, which is even more important. Instead of just saying, all right, this guy's standing there, so we can't do that. They understand the why, and then based on that, they have to check out of the play that we originally called in the huddle to what the play is going to be next. And they can do that, right, real quick, and they have to. The great thing is we have smart linemen, and when we have narrowed down the plays, there's a lot less that they have to worry about, which is a great thing. So the things that we do run, we run very well.
You said you have smart linemen, and that's what I was thinking when you were describing about all these different things and understanding, okay, this is the personnel, this is what we have, or this is the play that we did. Now we're adjusting to this. They got to be smart. How much of that is just them being intelligent and that's who they are, and how much of it is teaching and kind of helping them hone their skill? Because you have sustained success at Maine-Endwell. So if you have a smart offensive line and then they graduate, obviously, you're hoping that everybody has that intelligence and the ability to take that in, but people have different ways that they learn. So how do you aid in teaching your offensive line? Your team in general, what do you do to make sure that the message is getting across from year to year?
Well, we give them as many opportunities as possible to learn the system throughout, all 12 months, not just in the season, right? We want them to know it before the season even gets here. And then we just kind of, hone in on it and focus in on it throughout the whole season. But to be honest with you, it's the coaching staff. The coaching staff is absolutely amazing. Coach Freezer and Coach Emery's on the line. That's why those guys, they're smart. They're smart so they can learn it, but they're more importantly, they're willing to learn it.
Yeah.
But the coach, those two guys on the line, just doing an amazing job of setting up the kids for success. Them understanding it, not only the technique, but then the why we're doing the things that we do, why we're checking out of things, what works best against this front, what works best against that front. Is it going to be a double team? Is it not going to be a double team? Is it going to be a base block? All those things that those two just do an amazing job, and it shows. We kind of control the entire line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And they're working both sides of the ball on the line. And as they, I know it's a cliche and people say, games won in the trenches. Well, when you have those guys like those two guys teaching your guys what to do, you feel pretty good about it.
Well, and George O'Leary said to me when he was coaching UCF a few years back, and just a little bit removed from when they won the Fiesta Bowl over Baylor, he said to me, you build your team from the trenches out. He said, you build your offensive and defensive line, your team from the inside out. He said, any coach who doesn't know that and doesn't focus on that should do something else. And I never forgot him saying that. You just echoed those sentiments of George O'Leary, that is where you have to do it. They're the most thankless, some of the most thankless jobs next to a lot of the different areas of special teams and whatnot. But when you look at your offensive and defensive line, and like you said, your guys playing two ways, if somebody gets a sack in that moment, okay, that's great. But I think offensive line, even more so than anything, you look at the running back. When the offensive line blocks, you look at the running back's big run. You look at the quarterback's pass. You look at the receiver that makes a hell of a catch. But they don't talk about who set that up. To go into the trenches a little bit more, just what gets you excited and energized and what you love about watching your offensive and defensive line grow and excel. And the fact that here in the state of New York, as in other places, but not everywhere, you got guys that are playing two ways. So they might be an effective right tackle, but then when they come in and they're an effective defensive end, or they're able to do what they need to do and show that they're multiple, has got to make you happy as a coach, because both of those jobs are incredibly difficult. Any job on the line is difficult, but when you see a center come in at nose tackle and make a play on both ends, I mean, that's something special, at least to me.
You're right. I think you know, our guys, the great thing about them is that, our backs appreciate our linemen and our linemen appreciate our backs. So it's a team thing. And that's one thing that's the beautiful thing as a coach when you can actually watch all that kind of playing out. And the good thing is that our linemen expect our ends and our backs to block just as well. You know what I mean? They really do. And that's that with our offense, if our backs and our ends can't block, then we're not going to be as successful. Or our linemen can be great, and they are, but we need the edge blocking to block as well. So and the linemen are hold them accountable just as much as the other way around. If we don't see a great block on the edge, they're going to talk to each other about it and say, okay, what can we do better to get there the next time? And those types of things. And it's all about getting each other better more so than passing the blame. But that doesn't happen. They're happy for each other. It doesn't matter who scores. And they'll get on each other in a way that it's going to be a positive thing in the long run. And everybody knows that. And I think that's a great thing because they know they're not being singled out. They're being, okay, let's get this better so it works better for the team. And that's the great thing about it. So, and like I said, as a coach, it's just a great thing to watch every day.
Not keeping stats, not caring about who scores, not biting at each other, but being a team. Obviously, those are all ingredients to culture, and culture breeds success if you do it the right way. Matt, final note here, just what you're thankful for.
Well, of course, as always, my family. I'm thankful for the health of my family, the fact that I get to be with them as much as I can be, and them. Both my immediate family, and then of course Julie's family is local, and we're very close to them, and then of course my family, we're super close as well. So that I'm most thankful for, and the fact that everybody cares for each other. And then of course I'm thankful for what I get to do every day with, in school. And then, after school with these guys. So, I tell everybody in the world, I got the best, I got the best, I don't even call it a job really, but I got the best gig in America. I do I go to school every day. I don't go to work. And I think when you have something like that, you feel pretty fortunate when you wake up every day and you get to do the things you do, knowing that you do these things, but at the same time, you got the support of your loved ones behind you the whole way. So it's pretty special.
That coming from Matt Gallagher, Maine-Endwell Spartans head football coach. As the team is in the state semis, you can go and see them this Saturday, November 26th at 3 p.m. at Union Endicott High School. Go out and support upstate and central New York State in general. The student athletes appreciate it. The coaches appreciate it. The teachers, the parents, and everybody connected to this awesome community. So, Matt, as always, I can't thank you enough. You always make time for me, and you've always been good to me and treated me with such respect. I appreciate our friendship more than anything else. And, I look forward to seeing you in the Dome. I hope. So I know you got to take care of the games, but I can say what I want to say. So I definitely love seeing the success of Maine-Endwell because of the people behind it. So thank you for what you do.
Well, I appreciate that, Dan. And we're going to, we're going to give it our best, and we're hoping we're going to be in the Dome as well. So, and I thank you for allowing us to come on whenever we get the opportunity to, and what you're doing just in general, and then of course what you do for the Southern Tier, Section 4, and then of course Maine. We'll really appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So thank you.
Okay.